I'm Sarah Haywood and I'm Managing Director of Advanced Oxford.
And I am Katy Tuncer from Horizon 37.
And I'm Nigel, Tipple, Chief Exec of Enterprise Oxfordshire.
Welcome.
Great.
We're just going to all sidle off for a little bit.
So we're going to talk to you in this session before lunch about economic growth. And we're not just going to talk about economic growth in the big picture, national picture, coming down to Oxfordshire, but we're also going to talk about what it means for you as business leaders and what you need to take away from this session today. So we probably all know that government's number one mission is economic growth. And nearly a year into the new administration, we can ask ourselves, how is that going? Well, we probably will all recognise that the economy has been somewhat sluggish in the latter half of 2024 and coming into 2025. And we all can understand why that is happening. Continuation of war in Ukraine, wars elsewhere, sticky inflation, a new president in the United States with the volatility that has brought around trade, interest rates edging down continue to be high. And that's making everybody extremely cautious. Although having come on the train from Marylebone this morning and seen the number of people getting off at Bicester Village, I'm thinking we might be okay. And I am feeling reasonably optimistic as I sit in Oxfordshire. Because you may not know this, and Nigel knows it very well, but Oxfordshire has been a net contributor to the UK economy for a long time, and it's one of the few regions in the UK that can say that. So we're in the right place, and we're also, I think, at the right time, because I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that are happening in Oxfordshire, which are really at the heart of trying to kickstart the growth agenda. Now, I started off by saying that growth is the number one mission for the Labour administration. And it might surprise you to know that despite the political rhetoric, there is reasonable alignment across all parties, particularly at the national level. So over the last couple of months, we as Advanced Oxford, and I should have said at the start, some of you will know who we are. Some of you won't know who we are. If you want to find out more about who we are and what we do, come and grab me at lunchtime or later on, or my colleague Rachel, who is there, and we'd be very happy to talk to you about what we do. But over the last couple of months, we've hosted George Freeman, who was Minister for Science under the Conservative administration. And we've also done some roundtables with some of our local MPs, Lib Dem, Charlie Maynard and Ollie Glover. And both George and Charlie, and indeed Ollie, were very happy to say that they thought that what the administration now was doing was something that they could support and that they were on the right lines. But if we look at the regional level, we might not feel so confident that alignment is there. We've recently had local elections. We have a predominant of Lib Dem and Green councillors across the whole of Oxfordshire. And certainly from their position, at best you might think that they were ambivalent about economic growth. And at worst, sometimes they can feel anti-growth. And I think that that is sometimes because the perception of economic growth is something about concreting over the green belt and all about the winners winning more. So we need balance in our growth story. Ollie Glover, for example, said that he would like to see more of a balanced scorecard approach to how we talk about economic growth. And some of you will know that within this region, there's been work going on for quite some time to look at inclusive economy and think about how growth can benefit all of our citizens and not just those that are at the top of the ladder. Coming back to the national policy picture, we can see a whole range of policies that the government is pinning their colours to as the means to try and stimulate economic growth. There is a new national planning policy framework, so town and country planning is being reformed, and at the moment all of our local districts are going through some element of the local plan forming process. But there are going to be changes, and they're going to drive ambitious levels of growth, of development, of house building across the whole of the UK. We have the English Devolution Bill, which is driving reorganisation of local government. So the current landscape of county council and local district councils will change in Oxfordshire. We don't know what the solution will look like, but again, this is about, in part, aligning local government around economic growth priorities. And at some stage, probably in the next 3 years, we as Oxfordshire will sit in a new mayoral strategic authority. Lots of bets on the table about what that landscape, that geography will look like, but pretty soon we will find out. And that will bring devolution of powers that have previously existed and been held in Westminster into our local environment. Government has consulted on a modern industrial strategy which sees science, technology, innovation sitting at the heart of the growth agenda, and they have continued to support the concept of the UK as a science superpower. Now, at the end of January, Rachel Reeves chose Oxfordshire as the location for her most significant speech on economic growth. And in that speech, the Oxford to Cambridge region featured large. It has been a long time since we said goodbye to the concept of the ARC, and now we can say hello to the Oxford-Cambridge Growth Corridor. Name has changed, the concept is the same, that this super region that connects our two big university cities is at the heart of what will drive economic growth within the UK. And with that recommitment to the growth corridor came a recommitment happily to supporting East-West Rail, the case for which has been strengthened again recently by the announcement of Universal Studios developing a big new tourist attraction and park in Bedfordshire. Rachel Reeves announced that Lord Patrick Vallance, would become the government champion for the corridor. I'm sure many of you will remember him as one of the next slide, please, presenters through COVID-19. And he is working very hard to join up government because some of the big policy challenges that we have within this region sit within different government departments. And if we don't have joined up government, we won't have solutions. Within the speech, Rachel Reeves talked about 400,000 new skilled jobs being created within the Oxford to Cambridge region and £78 billion of additional cumulative GVA being added to the economy over the next 25 years. And this is predicated on pro-growth policies and a pro-growth scenario. And this data came from work that was commissioned by Public First, delivered by Public First by the Oxford to Cambridge Supercluster Board, which is a business group working across the whole region. Rachel Reeves also announced a growth commission for Oxford, and it's as if the timings aligned perfectly because on Monday the chair of that commission was finally announced, somebody called Neil Coleman, and yesterday he spent the whole day in Oxfordshire meeting with a whole variety of people. Irene Tracy, the Vice-Chancellor, hosted a dinner last night that Neil was at. I was there with local government, HEI, Homes England, the Ministry for Housing, Communities and Local Growth, all there. And the 18-month commission is going to be focusing very strongly on issues of infrastructure, transport and development. I mentioned 400,000 jobs. Work has just kicked off under what is called the ARC University Group, so the group of universities that sit between Oxford and Cambridge, looking at how we start to prepare a strategy to develop and deliver those skills over the next 25 years. And the University of Oxford is kicking off a piece of work called the Oxfordshire Strategic Innovation Task Force, which is going to look at how we can help and continue to help stimulate innovation-based growth within this region, with the university acting as a connector and convener. So the expectations are high. We're under the spotlight, but I say to you, if it's not going to happen in this region, where will it happen? And if it's not people like you, business leaders within this region, then who is it that's actually going to drive this growth? The Growth Commission for Oxford is a long-term piece of work. Cowley branch line could be 4 or 5 years to deliver if it's supported in the comprehensive spending review, but Lord Vallance is looking for low-hanging fruit and quick actions. So as business leaders in this room, it starts with you. What role for you, and how can you help to be part of this growth story? So having looked at that big picture, we're bringing it down to you as individuals. So I'm really pleased to welcome to the stage my colleague, Katy. Katy's background is in the Army, McKinsey, and Met Police. That's why she was so good at getting you all to order and sitting down. She's a Cambridge graduate, but she's now in Oxfordshire, and she's an entrepreneur in residence at the University of Oxford Zero Institute. A leadership expert who founded Horizon 37, she's all going to get you thinking about what you need to do.
We've got our work cut out, haven't we? 400,000 new jobs. So wow, 400,000 new jobs. We've got our work cut out. And we're in this together. Who here is a leader of growth? Yeah. So I've had the great privilege of coaching around 300 in the past 10 years or so. I've also founded 9 ventures. That's a whole nother story. And for us to be successful, we've got to think how we are going to be leaders of growth. Did you know that if you found a company in the UK, what's the chances of being still in existence, just surviving 5 years? 40%. Okay, and that's survival. That doesn't count actual success, scaling, achieving really serious growth and really serious results. That's about 1 in 6. Should I take this off? Just keep this on too? Okay. So 1 in 6. Is that working? Okay. So the odds don't look good. We have a challenge on our hands. I don't know how I'm going to do the next part of my speech now that I have a microphone in my hands. You'll see why. I have a challenge for you. Do you have a piece of paper? This is my challenge. I'm just going to shout. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, good. Right. I have a challenge for you. Let's get going. Have you got a piece of paper or something you can write down? I'm going to give you 10 seconds to write down the results that you can imagine achieving in the next 12 months in your business. To give you inspiration, sort of results that you might be really proud of. Example. And while you're doing that, I'm going to be quiet. At 10 seconds. Might start feeling a bit like this. Oh! Is that 10 yet? Oh, I don't think I can juggle for 10 seconds. All right, anyway, there we go. Have you got it? How easy was that? Some of you might have written down really high-level things. Clear results around your mission, around commercial success, around technological success. Anyone got things like that? Achieving major product advances, faster iteration, key market access, team motivation, stuff like that? Give me a nod. Okay. The first thing is getting really clear on what that prize is, what growth you're really going to look like, and how it will feel to be the 1 in 6. We're going to beat the odds in Oxfordshire, but be the 1 in 6 that is growing and achieving a contribution to these 400,000 jobs. That's the first thing for you. Please write down all of the things that you need to achieve in leadership in the next 12 months. First best joke, as good as it is. Yeah, it approximately takes 7 minutes before people stop when I get them to do this. So writing down, mine might say, don't bother looking on ChatGPT to make the jokes or something like that. Anyway, the point is there are gazillions of things that you could do to step up your leadership. And you can't do them all. The distillation here, this is a field guide of a whole lot of evidence and types of leadership correlate with growth, success in business. And I'm reading from here. There are thousands of ways to lead and thousands of interventions to choose from in the quest to grow business leadership. You have a world-changing mission, and you cannot do everything. If you try to, then deprioritization will happen by accident. Who's really good at prioritization? Yeah, oh, come on. Yes, I assume some of you are pretty good at deprioritization. Who's got loads of spare time? But where are all these people with loads of spare time? I put to you, yeah, you might be good at prioritization, but you're trying to do very ambitious things. So consider shifting to a deprioritization mindset. We've heard so much today about all the things you can do, and that's only going to increase all the different activities we ought to be doing and embracing all the new opportunities around AI. You cannot do everything. So that second challenge is to really think about deprioritization mindset and really look at the gaps. Perfect can, of course, be the enemy of growth. So we've got that. We're going to know our results and go with this deprioritization mindset. Yes? So far, so good. You're with me. Good, because I'm your tour guide here. We're about to do a diagnosis. So, in 2021, we partnered with Cranfield School of Management and did a really interesting piece of research to understand what are the components of leadership that correlate with growth business success. So achieving very specific business outcomes, exits, achieving the mission, that sort of thing that we all focus on. And luckily, it's pretty simple what we found, is it boils down to 4 key things that really correlate with success. In my opinion, this is about 80% of the value. So we're going to make it easy today, and I'm going to give you a guided tour through these 4 areas. As we go, perhaps you look at your own business and score out of 10, how you think you're doing in these 4 areas. Yes? First thing I'll talk about is culture. What did we learn about having the right culture to drive growth? Well, firstly, there is no one-size-fits-all. The culture is mission-dependent. So what your business is trying to do will determine the ideal culture for your business. However, some hallmarks of great culture. It is deliberately created for the business. It is consistent, so the leaders are actually following with integrity, their own stated values. Another thing is that it's exclusive. And when I say exclusive, I mean exclusive of intolerable behaviors. So that's a hallmark that we see of successful cultures, that some things are not tolerated. They also often see extensive effort to include healthy difference. So that's the inclusion piece. That's where we think about things we might accidentally exclude and then bring them in, as we all know, to improve the competitive advantage through quality of decision making and things like that. So we do know some things about general hallmarks about culture. But I want to tell you a story about a CEO that for now I'm going to call Zane. Zane had a pretty successful growth business and was full of really clever people. And they'd scaled pretty well so far, it was going really well. But what Zane was really upset about was how much apologizing he was having to do to his people. These clever people did not want to spend their time debugging product to ship to customers. This was not what they were hired for. They were way too clever. They were way more interested in doing first principles, exciting stuff. And that's the culture, right? We do really cutting edge stuff. Why should we debug? And what Zane and his executive team decided to do was to shift the narrative. And they started to say, no longer is the coolest, sexiest work about cutting edge, cool stuff. It's actually about customer delight. No one size fits all. That's my culture symbol there. Culture is something you need to really create deliberately, and it needs to evolve over time. So when Zane changed the narrative, okay, 2 people half quit. That happened. However, totally the right thing. Everyone else was behind the mission, which was commercialization and achieving customer impact, and that was what the business needed. So that's your chance to score out of 10. Now, how are you doing? Second thing I'll talk about, I'm actually going to use another example here, is let's call her Zara, a CEO of a different business. Zara had this total mishmash of activities going on. Very dedicated and interesting stuff, but unfortunately kind of littered with old ideas. People were using new innovation, new ideas. And what Zara was really stuck on was that no one was saying the same thing about the direction that the business ought to go in. So she noticed that everyone had a very big buy-in to the vision, to the mission, but actually there was all sorts of different activity going on in all sorts of different areas. I've got a thing for this. So Zara sat down with her exec team, and in a painful day, this is my symbol for direction setting, identify that everyone would describe a different thing for what the top priorities were for the business. So that list that you just wrote, would your executive team be writing the same thing? So this was our opportunity to reset, to get really clear about what the priorities were and make sure that it wasn't only her that had that clear in her head, but her whole exec team. So there you go, have a chance to score yourself out of 10. Direction setting. So far, so good? All right. By the way, the direction setting is the biggest derailer. The biggest derailer in business for not achieving growth potential is having misaligned direction. So you really want to get that one right. Okay, next I'm going to talk about performance management. Who loves performance management? Shut up. Yes, it's got a pretty bad reputation, right? Performance management. Now, I'm not talking about the sort of performance management that has people just think about getting fired. I'm talking about this kind of performance. Great performance, right? How are we getting our business to perform in the way that we want? So I was going to do a sort of leap across the stage. Should I do it? Okay, thank you. Great performance. We'll talk about someone called Zolder, CEO called Zolder here. Zolder actually had a really strong commitment to performance. And what she wanted was for everyone to have autonomy. Agree with that? Unfortunately, what she found is that she was creating ambiguity. So when she was trying to get people to focus on doing the right things, she was saying, do it how you want, use your way. But actually, she was losing people because they were off confused about what should happen. The other mistake that Zolder was making is that she'd made sweeping assumptions about what would motivate people. She had decided that we had to have a rule of no meetings before 9 a.m. Sounds sensible. We should have Zoom drinks every Friday night to celebrate the week's work. And we should also have this awful State of the Nation meeting every Monday morning. We gathered some feedback and found this is absolutely not what people wanted. It's stressing everybody out. And to Zolder's great credit, she then took a really careful look and thought, what is going to motivate people and how can we help manage performance? In her particular case, you guessed it, it was giving clear direction, which she had been missing out doing. They were crying out for clear direction. It was also this thing that came from the grassroots up, which was wanting this thing called a coffee bot. I don't know if any of you have tried this out. It worked very well in Zolder's business. May or may not be right, but the point is it's getting the specific performance management methods that achieve your business growth targets. Right, so that's the performance one. I just waved this ribbon again just because it's really good fun. High performance. So you can give yourself a score out of 10 for your performance management. Are you creating ambiguity and making it you having high expectations, robust consequences, clear direction, and accountability. Score out of 10. And now I will come on to the final one of the 4. This is feedback. That expression, some... Yeah, know that one? I shouldn't say it here. CEO this time called Zed. And Zed comes in, self-declared very high EQ. Zed he knows what people are thinking. He knows what people are feeling. He absolutely is on the pulse. He gives lots of feedback to people all the time. Zed also, when he gets feedback, is very careful to thank the person, to say that he already knew it, and to reassure them that he has already got a solution and is already working on it. And funnily enough, he's stopped getting feedback. He's gone blue in the face trying to get people to hear what matters, and no one's listening to him. Now, to his great credit, Zed is a real person, but not their name. Zed went, this isn't working. What do I need to do? And he took on making an absolute step change in the mindset that he, as the senior leader in the business, was bringing to feedback receiving conversations. And there is the breakthrough. That is always how we see feedback breakthroughs turning around. So he was validating people. He was thanking them for feedback. And that is even the kind of feedback that comes dumped, completely uninformed, irrational, emotive, offensive. The way the senior leader responds to that is critical in creating the feedback culture. And he absolutely did it. Zed ended up creating higher levels of trust, free-flowing feedback, and great insight, not perfect feedback, but a culture that allowed and unlocked a lot more discussion and growth and conversations. So that's, I think, a really beautiful example of someone completely turning around the way feedback was done as a way to enable growth. So in your business, are you vomiting out feedback words, or are you creating a mindset and a culture of great feedback? And that's the 4th. As growth leaders, huge success in achieving growth through these 4 things. In order to now make this very real to the room, we're going to invite you to do a quick diagnosis of your own state of performance. Now, you remember I said the research looked at all the components of leadership. I've given you 4 in detail in the talk today. We're going to invite you, can we put that on the screen now? We're going to invite you to look at the top 10. So these are 10 components of leadership that came out as the most important in this work. And we'd like to ask you first to consider this. For your business, which are best performing components now? And there should be 10, which we can only see. So these are the top 4 that you know from the talk today. But then there's also, if we scroll down here, you'll be able to see another 6. So the top... Yeah, I've got them on Slido. All on Slido, cool. Okay, and does this come out live? Can we see this? So this is what you're good at. What you're good at now. Building on strengths is a key thing as well. If you want to read more about this, there is a whole research report behind all of it that we published in 2021. I'm sure we can share that with you. Culture looks good. I mean, it looks like you guys are good at culture. We could just scroll. Do you want to just scroll down even, see what the other 2 green ones are? Because I think that will give us the top. Is that the answers there? That's the answers there. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so well done on creating culture. That will set you up for success. Obviously, you have to keep recreating it as you grow and things change. Excellent. Problem solving. That's great. So we've got, that's 47% at the moment. We've got direction setting and resilience. Resilience is great. Failure's been mentioned a few times today. I did show you some good failures with my juggling, right? Embrace failure drives innovation, creates growth. And stakeholder relations is flipping between that and resilience. Okay, cool. Should we do the lowest score? So everyone in this room, we've got coverage of all of them being strengths. That's really good, right? So now let's have a quick look at the worst performing. Where have we got gaps? Oh, I need to give you a phone back, yes. Sorry. Yes, perfect. All right, let's do this one. Don't overthink this. Look at that, 100% managing performance. Did I make a good show of that one? Fix that one. Often the problem is that people don't do it at all, right? Performance management. That we like to be nice. We started these businesses wanting to be a family feel and really connected, and it's very difficult to then have robust conversations about performance. Okay, should we have a quick look what we've got? Okay, good. Performance management. Feedback. Okay, that's a shame. Fix that. That's easy. It's all in the mind. It's about how you receive feedback. The first time someone gives you an absolutely rubbish bit of feedback and you respond by saying, thank you, I can see that you've really thought about that. I'll take that on board. I'm not going to validate it. Thank you, that's great. Then you start to shift the narrative. They don't start to think they're right or wrong. And then we've got our decision making. That's something important too. All right, well, we've got all this data.
Great. Okay, and so if we can move to our third question, so bringing it back now to some of the activities that are taking place within the region, we're really interested to hear what you think are the most important enablers of growth within this region. So you can just type in 10 words, and it could be a whole set of things, or it could be, I think the most important enabler is. Okay, and this would be incredibly helpful to us because this, as I presented to you, there are various pieces of work that are going forward now through the Growth Commission, the work that the university is doing, the work on skills. So we've got an opportunity to be able to take the feedback from this room and put that through into those pieces of work.
Lots of this collaboration-themed answers, networking. I mean, that's why we're here.
And what we'll try and do also through the feedback reporting from this event as a whole is to give a distillation of the feedback that we got from this particular poll into that report. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Nigel.
You'll be pleased to know I've got no props, so I'm not going to be dancing across stage. For those who know, I'm 8 weeks into hip replacement surgery, so I'm definitely not doing anything too strenuous. Quite how I follow that, I don't know, so I'm just going to wing it. I think there are 3 issues for me that this session has highlighted in terms of reflections, an offer from us collectively, and some challenges that I think we need to just be conscious of. So in the first kind of reflections, several times changing political landscapes or local government reform, devolution, we either see that as a threat or we get hold of it, we harness it, we start working proactively with the public sector in order to get your views across and shape what you think is right for Oxfordshire, the place, for the businesses that operate within it and the communities that live here and will benefit from any of those changes. So being active is important, but actually expressing your views is even more important. So we need to make sure that that private sector voice is visible and understandable. We've got 2 opportunities to do that at a kind of macro level. Again, Sarah talked about the Oxford-Cambridge work and this growth corridor. It's been an ARC, it's been Camcox, it's been all sorts. The reality is we've got an opportunity to be at the front of that conversation, not at the back of it. We've got to be, again, visible, active and engaged and make sure that Oxfordshire's value for you as businesses is properly articulated. And that's where some of this leadership and direction that Katy was talking about, that you take as a business, can translate into a county, that can translate into a conversation with government. It's about being able to articulate message across. We also have the Oxford and Oxfordshire Growth Commission. And again, that's a real reflection of government listening. To be fair, the City Council made some really strong early proposals into government when we had that change in government. And then the system has got behind that conversation and government started to listen. And we now have an Oxford and Oxfordshire Growth Commission. Let's use it. Let's make sure that private sector voice from you as businesses rings loud and true throughout that entire 18-month process or thereabouts as we move through it. Sarah's on that commission, I think I'm right in saying. We will continue as the kind of reincarnated Enterprise Oxfordshire to lobby and to push hard to make sure that that noise and that visibility of you as businesses is there. But it comes back to leadership. We can't just rely on the public sector. We have to be a strong private sector voice that helps to shape some of those conversations and do it early in that process. And if I think about that in terms of my day job, so Enterprise Oxfordshire as now a company of the County Council, so we had a change in ownership and direction slightly, but that's not changed the focus of what we do. We're still there to support businesses to grow. We're still there to help young people and those across all age ranges to be the best that they can be in terms of education, training and development, working with HE and FE to make sure that skills for the future baked into plans. And you, again, as leaders of businesses, prioritising what's important to you, need to communicate with us what are those key issues. Where is it you've got the pinch points? We all know that transport's a challenge, housing's a challenge. They're longer term. What's some immediate stuff over the next 1 to 2, 3 years? How can we help you to grow? We've got 2 minutes left. So if you look at that in the context of economy, we've got strategies coming out of our ears, frankly, and we're going to have more to come. Well, modern industrial strategy with its sector plans. What you might not know is we're not in a devolution area yet. We're not in that kind of mayoral conversation, but virtually every government sector teams that are writing the detail that goes into the industrial strategy have been into Oxfordshire, they've talked to us, they've talked to lots of people in this room, even though we're not in the Manchester tier or the Liverpool or the West Midlands. They value our input, they value your input as businesses, and the more that we can do to amplify that message, the better in terms of raising our game collectively and individually. And again, that comes back to that leadership point around how confident are you in your business, your sector, and then what you need in order to grow, to develop, for the benefit of the communities that live here. Because Oxfordshire's growing, and it'll grow more, but we also have a lot of communities that feel disenfranchised. So inclusion, making sure that they can see value in some of that investment that's going on. There's lots of really good practice. We haven't got enough time, and I haven't got enough time to name them and call them all out. But there's lots of really good practice from you as businesses engaging with your communities in a meaningful way. What we don't always do is amplify that message. We don't always talk about it, and we don't always elevate it. So we need to do more of that as we move forward. And I guess finally, if you think about that in terms of government and messaging, so we as an organisation in Oxfordshire have got a direct link into government through various reporting requirements. So we have to report Bears as was business and trade as they are now. God knows what they'll be next week. That monthly reporting, we can feed lots of, my time's up, lots of information into that system. But it needs to come from you. It needs to be really tangible. The more we can do through the Growth Commission, through the work that we're doing collectively, and through some of the sector, through industrial strategy, the more we can do to influence government, to give them the confidence to put more investment with us as a place, and we can perhaps influence the way that our public sector partners can support us on that journey, because they are genuinely there to do the right job. What we need to do is help them by informing them, being engaged, being active advocates for Oxfordshire, the place, for your businesses, for your communities. I'm going to stop there. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Just bear in mind, we want your engagement. Katie's teed it up. It's now over to you over lunch to think about how do you engage with us, what do you want to do, how do you want to communicate those messages. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.